Okay, we're going to begin with Chapter 5-2, Intentional Torts, Negligence, and Strict Liability. For this first session, we will probably not get past intentional torts. So our essential question here, what are the elements of negligence, will likely not be answered by the end of this session. But we will come back to that. We're going to just identify some of the main intentional torts that you will see throughout this chapter, and things that you want to know about them, and then we will move on to the negligence and strict liability. So on page 85, will somebody volunteer to read for me? What's your verdict on page 85?
During deer hunting season, Hart drove miles in the country in search of game. He parked his pickup truck along a dirt road, climbed the fence, and hiked into the woods. Hart thought the land was part of a national forest. However, it was actually belonged to Quincy, who posted no trespassing signs. Confronted by Quincy, Hart apologized for his mistake and left.
Had Hart committed an intentional tort? Did he commit an intentional tort? What do you think? On page 85. Did he commit an intentional tort? Why? You said no. He did not try to. Okay, so his not knowing that it was someone else's property. Did we say, is ignorance ever a defense? Remember, we said ignorance is never a defense. It's never an excuse. So even though he didn't know, he still did it. He intentionally climbed the fence and went into the property, right? Okay? So to me, it's pretty intentional. Now, if I'm walking and here's the property line and I just drift over here and then I come back over and, occasionally my foot crosses into your path and I don't know it, is that intentional? No, that's not intentional. Okay? Climbing a fence and crossing the threshold, even if you didn't quote unquote know, ignorance is never a defense or it's never an excuse. So he did actually commit an intentional tort. Okay, he didn't have a criminal intent, but he did cross that line and cross the property line. He climbed the fence, and so therefore he saw the sign, no trespassing, and he went anyway. So he did commit an intentional tort. Now, had any damage occurred? And that's what we'll talk about. Did anything happen as a result of this tort? When he crossed into the property? No, nothing happened. He just was there, and then he left. So he could not be sued for that because there's nothing to be suing him for. Okay, we could just warn him not to do that again. All right, so that is our what's your verdict. Now, these are the most common intentional torts. Assault and battery, and we will spend a little bit of time on assault and battery and understanding what the difference is. Okay, false imprisonment, defamation, invasion of privacy, trespass to land, conversion, interference with contractual relations, and fraud. These are the torts that we're going to learn about, the intentional torts that we're going to learn about during this chapter. Okay, and these are all in your book. Okay, got it? You can look them up in your book. Okay, so the first thing we need to understand is intentional torts. Okay, what is an intentional tort? It is a tort where the defendant possessed the intent, okay, or purpose to inflict the resulting injury. Now, here is our sample sign, our example sign. No trespassing private property. Okay, so we see the sign, it's there. If we enter into that property, we've intentionally broken, we've broken that law. Okay, and the resulting injury, you'd have to show that there was some kind of damage to the property. But here is another example. This guy is kicking this guy on the ground. Okay, does he intend to hurt him? Yeah, he sure does. Okay, so that is an intentional tort, and it is an intentional breaking of the law there. I'm sorry, intentionally inflicting injury. Okay. First tort we're going to talk about is assault. Okay, this occurs when one person intentionally puts another in reasonable fear of an offensive or harmfully bodily contact. Okay, it can be just a gesture or just words. It does not include the physical contact. When we cross over into the physical contact, we go into a different tort. We go into the tort of battery. Okay, so the assault is the threat, okay, or the reasonable fear that this contact would be coming. All right, in this case, he's got him by the collar of his shirt, okay? He's threatening him. He's got a menacing look on his face. Now, he's actually made contact here, so we've crossed over already. But here, she's pointing, she's screaming, she's yelling, she's advancing, aggressing. All right, so we have assault going on. Okay, the threat must be believable that the victim felt threatened. Yeah. Okay. If you don't get it, this will be available online tomorrow, so you can get it then. Okay. So the victim must feel threatened, and it must be reasonable that that was the case. Okay. There is, I think, a picture here, okay, of this is an NBA basketball player, 6'9", 265 pounds. Okay. This guy touched him. And this guy, this basketball player, said he felt threatened. Is that true? I mean, am I going to be threatened by this guy? Maybe I would. It's not race. He just wanted to touch him. He was touching him. Okay? So a 6'9" NBA basketball player on the court in his element, it's not reasonable that he's going to be, quote unquote, threatened by a, 5'11" man who looks to be something in his 40s or 50s. Okay, he's not super threatening. So that's not a real great example. Here we have some dude getting ready to haul off and hit somebody else. That is pretty reasonable. Or if we enter into large size differentials, okay, or that kind of thing, that's more reasonable with assault. Okay, battery. This is the intentional breach of the duty to refrain from harmful or offensive touching. So we all have a duty to not touch or not invade another person's privacy. Okay, I can't come over here and just start touching Aaron, putting whatever, punching him or kicking him. I have to refrain from that. We actually have what we can consider a bubble of space, of personal space in our country. Okay, so we have that sort of built in that there's an expectation people won't enter into your private space. Now, if you're on a crowded subway and someone's standing too close to you, that's understandable. Okay, but if I come over here and I start teaching my lesson, right, whoops, here, okay, then I've entered into, inappropriate space. Okay, shooting, pushing in anger, spitting or throwing things at a person. They are all batteries, like shoes. Shoes is a particularly political statement in some countries. Okay, an assault frequently takes place before you get to battery. So generally, there will be my threat where I scream and yell in your face, and then I haul off and hit you. Okay, assault and battery. Now, if I come from behind and I cold cock you in the back of the head, if I sneak you and you don't see it coming, then we have a battery without an assault because you had no idea I was coming, but I hit you. Okay, so you need to be aware of the threat in order for there to be an assault. So you can have one without the other. Now, are these both crimes and torts? Yes, they are. Okay, crimes, torts can be crimes as well. So we have crimes of assault and battery, where you would be maybe fined or serve some jail time, and then we have the torts of assault and battery. Okay, the difference is we must have. Um, oh, is this assault or battery or both? What? What? If I tell you this guy is spitting on that guy, that is assault and battery. Okay? What about this one? I'm sorry, this one was just battery. You were right. He just came up without saying anything and spit on the guy, so that there was no threat. How about here? This again is spit. Okay, we have battery, and these guys are posturing. They're aggressing. They are also assaulting one another. Is what's happening. And then how about here? That's just goofy. Yeah, I guess it's battery. I think they were actually doing it for something for fun, but yeah, that's straight up spitting right in his face. Now, the difference is there is no harm if there's no harmful or I'm sorry, if there is a harmful or offensive contact, but no intent, then there cannot be a tort. Okay, so if you're acting in self-defense, you might not have committed battery. If you accidentally spit on someone, if you're in a crowded subway and you sneeze, that's not assault or battery. That was an accident. Okay? In sports, there is no tort because you have signed on to be in this close proximity and be playing this game. All right? Here, though, we have this is with a fan and a player, so that's slightly different. Okay? And here we have the players are fighting, so there would be no legal ramifications there. Um, okay. False imprisonment. Do you understand assault and battery? Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Um, false imprisonment. Okay. Intentional confinement of a person against the person's will and without lawful privileges. Okay. Now, police officers have what we call lawful privileges. And merchants, store owners, they also have what we call lawful privileges when they suspect a person has been shoplifting, okay, or stealing. But if you take somebody and hold them against their will, okay, if you pretend to be a police officer and hold them under against their will, if they're handcuffed or locked in a car or in a room, or if they're simply told in a threatening way that they must stay there, you could be sued for false imprisonment. Okay, if I threaten a student and say, you can't leave here until 8 o'clock tonight, because you did whatever, didn't serve your detention or something. Okay, if I threaten a student in that way, and I don't have lawful privileges, okay, or obviously if I handcuff you and hold you in the classroom. There was a case where a teacher duct taped a student and put them in the closet, okay, to teach them a lesson. And I don't know, it was an elementary student. I don't know what the circumstances were. I can't imagine. I mean, I know elementary kids. I have a couple of my own. They must drive you bananas, but I don't know at what point you ever think that it's okay to duct tape a child and put him in a closet. Might want to, but probably wouldn't do it. So that's false imprisonment. Okay? Now, the harm in the false imprisonment. The harm would be, remember, we have to show the actual injury for that child. Okay? Eventually, the child came out of that closet, right? Okay. Eventually, the child came out, was released from the closet. So, was that child physically damaged? Not really. Okay, that when that child came out, um, you know, okay, maybe his knees hurt, but did he have broken bones or a monetary loss of things? No. But that child may experience post-traumatic stress from that incident. And therefore, we come into that element of pain and suffering and psychological damage. Okay, so therefore, if it can be proven that that incident was upsetting enough to that child to cause permanent damage or at least some kind of damage, then we have a lawsuit. Now, going back to our first, the chapter, the first part of the chapter, who would be responsible? Where are the deep pockets for this case? Okay, for that teacher. Is that family going to sue that teacher? Okay, they're going to try and get a couple mil off that teacher? Sure, because teachers have millions of dollars. No, that family's not going to sue that teacher. Who is that family going to sue? The school for allowing a teacher that would be so grossly incompetent and negligent and, I don't know, wrong, to put a child in a closet. The school would be responsible for that teacher who made this really rash and awful decision to do this. So the school would be sued, and the family would get, their millions from the school, not from the teacher. The teacher doesn't have it. So we're looking for, when we're talking about the tort law, we're talking about money and monetary damages, and we're talking about deep pockets and trying to get to find the person who has the deep pockets in order to pay for the things that have gone awry, gone wrong. Okay? Questions about false imprisonment? When the police have cause to arrest a person, they are considered privileged to imprison them. Okay? That is why they are allowed to do so. Okay? Now, if the police make an arrest and it's the wrong person, and they hold them for an exorbitant amount of time, they could potentially be sued for false imprisonment. Okay, now the police would have to prove that they had reasonable belief that the person was the suspect, blah, blah, blah. But if they don't have enough evidence to support that, they could potentially be responsible for a false imprisonment tort. Okay? So also then we have merchants. That means a shop owner, somebody who has something at stake with shoplifting. They can detain a person if they believe he or she is shoplifting. Now, these are very, very, wishy-washy lines, because in most store owners, at least in this area, they will wait until the person has shoplifted, not just picked it up and put it in their pocket, but picked it up, put it in their pocket, and walked outside of the building. And then they will attempt to detain them. Okay, because they don't want to cross over into false imprisonment. Okay, they want to make sure that the person has committed the crime, and then they will ask them to stay, within their whatever, they'll have a room or something like that. Okay. All right. Questions on false imprisonment. All right, defamation. Defamation of character. There are two kinds. There is slander and there is libel. Okay, you will need to know the difference between the two. Slander is oral. Libel is written or printed defamation. Okay? They are false statements that cause injury, or injure a person's reputation and good name. Okay, they must. Okay, so then this little cartoon here says publication by which other persons are likely to be induced to shun, avoid, ridicule, or despise a person. Okay, now, if this is the case, every single solitary person in this building is guilty of defamation, either slander or libel, written or oral. Every single one of you has said something nasty about another person. Yes or no? Lies and slander. Yes, me lying and slandering. Okay? Everyone, or maybe not everyone, but 90% of the people in this building have said something that they're repeated a rumor they've heard or something. You are the 1%. Okay. Now, the key here is the statements must be false. They must be false. If you can prove that the statements are true, that is a complete defense. Okay, so the statements must be false. They must be communicated to a third person. Okay, I can't just be sitting around. If my reputation can't be harmed if nobody else hears it, okay? And they must bring the victim into some kind of ridicule, or they must damage their reputation. Okay, so I was going to run for prom queen, and then Rob said I eat, Crisco at home, and everybody started making fun of me. And so then nobody voted for me for prom queen, and now I don't get to be the prom queen. Okay, what would be the lie? You have to prove that I don't eat Crisco, and then you'd also have to prove that the damage was done, that was what caused me not to be the prom queen, and then my sorority sister to be found out. I don't know. Um, it has to also have some kind of legal ramification. So better example would be Rob posted on Facebook that I do drugs, and then the college that I was going to go to found out, saw it on Facebook, and they retracted my scholarship, and then I lost my scholarship, and I lost my whatever ability to go to school. That would be an example of what kind of, would that be slander or libel? Libel, thank you, written. Okay, Facebook has opened up a whole new world of defamation. All right, but again, it must be false, and I would have to prove that it is in fact false. Okay, by submitting my drug tests and my record, and they would be trying to prove that it was true, that I really did do drugs, whatever. Excuse me. Okay, and we have our nurses down here, and they're talking, they're gossiping. That's the picture that you see. So and so is cheating on so and so or whatever. Again, anytime that this kind of defamation occurs where somebody is saying something negative about another person that is A, false, and B, ruining a reputation, and C, maybe causing a divorce or causing a person to lose a paid position or an endorsement, that kind of thing. Anytime that is occurring, who are you looking for? Nick or Tristan? Oh yeah, you help yourself. Okay, so anytime that is happening, that is considered defamatory and could potentially be an intentional tort. Okay, I think um, in defamation terms, okay, slander must show actual physical loss. Okay, the slander must show that there was the actual physical loss. So if I'm saying that people were saying things orally, talking about me, and I have nothing to prove that it's written, okay, I have to show what my physical loss was. My boss didn't promote me because everybody on the ninth floor was saying that I, you know, whatever, sleep at my desk every lunch. Okay, when I drink pig's lunch, sure, okay, and then unless the statements are to the effect that I committed a serious crime, okay, that I have a loathsome disease, okay, communicable disease, like a leper or like HIV or some kind of sexually transmitted disease or something that would be something that would keep me from doing my job, perhaps like an alcohol dependency, mental illness, that kind of thing. If they are what I honestly I don't know that, but that would be difficult on my reputation. Okay, and then the third is injuries. Injures, that should be injures. My profession. So again, if the slander shows that if the slander are to these effects, then I don't have to show the actual physical loss. It is assumed that would be my my loss. And then in libel cases, the injury is assumed and the damages do not need to be shown to the court. Okay, so the moral of the story is when you are gossiping, and I say when because likely you will do it at some point, consider this. Okay, we're going to stop here because we're almost done for the day. So we're going to stop and then we will continue on. I do want you to, you can't answer the essential question today, but when tomorrow when you're completing this lesson, um, you'll go back and you'll answer essential question and there'll be an assignment tomorrow.